you can think about how hard it's going to be, but until you're in that position and like training like 12 to 15 hours a week, that's when you're like, oh God, you know, like this is tough. It is completely normal to be a beginner, and like at the end of the day, we all start somewhere. The 21st of September is just running through my head all the time. It's just that date is definitely looming over me. And I'm kind of not forgetting about everything before then, but it's literally like tunnel vision. That's all I can see is that day. My Ironman's on the 21st, tattoos on the 22nd. I'm Paige. I'm actually a fitness coach, and also, of course, on social media. And yeah, I'm just a very passionate fitness freak. I'm into all things fitness. I'm very into my running, and ever so recently now into triathlon as well, which is exciting.
I think people may have come to you for triathlon maybe recently, or they may have been following you for a long time.
Yeah.
But for people that are new to your page and new to you, they're going to see you now as this person that's training up for an Ironman. Mm-hmm. You don't just get to that stage straight away. So where did it all begin for you?
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of people now will probably find me on social media and probably think, like, just looking straight at my page will probably think that I've been doing triathlon for quite a long time, because an Ironman's extreme, right? Like, that's probably, well, it is the biggest triathlon you can do.
Pretty extreme.
And not everyone does an Ironman. So I'm sure a lot of people do find me on social media, like, probably end up like scrolling, looking and thinking like, oh, you know what? She's really into a triathlon. She's probably doing it quite a while and, you know, gradually got to this stage. However, that is false. And probably after scrolling for a little while, you probably will see that I am very much a beginner to the whole triathlon world. So yeah, I only started my triathlon journey actually at the start of this year, properly training. At the back end of last year, I started to swim a little bit. Could never really properly swim. I was absolutely gone by one length. And yeah, last year I was kind of into my marathon training, into the marathons and things like that. And then it got to like mid last year and I was like, I want to do something different next year. Like I think I'm ready to take the leap of like just changing up my training. And yeah, I came across triathlon and started properly training at the start of this year, really.
And how has it been throwing yourself into 3 sports instead of 1?
Yeah, it's been challenging to say the least. Yeah. Someone actually asked me the other day like how like training is going, etc. And to start off with, it was very much learning the sports. So like actually learning what you like. I didn't even have a bike. Like know what equipment you need, like what cycling gear. No one told me how expensive that was. The swimming gear, like I didn't have proper swimming stuff. I didn't have a swimming hat. It was kind of learning what I needed to do. And then like after, I'd say it was around 2 months, then you actually start to train, if that makes sense. So like I was learning how to do these things. And then all of a sudden, like I was then doing like swimming sets and like going out on intervals on my bike. And that's when the training actually starts to begin. And that's when you can start to enjoy it as well, because you kind of don't feel so much scared going out on your bike or scared going into the pool. It's when the training starts to, properly ramp up, I suppose.
I think there's so much involved in, let's just take running. So when you're starting running, there's all this terminology that you don't really understand. Your easy runs, your tempo runs, your interval sessions, your thresholds, your 80-20 split you're supposed to be hitting. And it's quite overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And then when you take that and times it by 3, did it feel just completely overwhelming initially?
Yeah, it definitely did. I was lucky enough to get a coach straight away jumping into triathlon. So there was a lot of WhatsApps to my coach saying, what does this mean? Like, what does this mean? Like, I remember he put on, so my first swimming session was like drills. And I was like, drills? Like, what's that? Like, surely you just go in a pool and you just like try and swim, or like, you know, you cover a certain distance. And like, he'd like link like YouTube videos, you know, like to explain how to do these drills and things. And I was watching them and I was like my face was like, uh what do you mean? Like, I've never ever seen anyone do this before. And then even just things like needing like a paddles or like pull buoys and things in the pool, I was like, where do I find that equipment? Like, what do these look like? And even down to like just the terminology he was using on like sessions and things, like using a star and for like the rest timing and how long it means and things like that. So yeah, there was a lot of questions at the beginning, but I think they're very normal questions that everyone asks. Because ever since like I've been sharing the journey on social media, like a lot, like I'm quite open about like not knowing these things and like being quite confused with all that as a beginner. And like I'd get a lot of responses being like, same boat, absolutely same here. So it is very normal to feel that way, but once you know them, it becomes second nature reading it.
And obviously you sharing that side of your story, the fact that, it all is all kind of new and there is a lot to it, that's going to help a lot of people through social media, through your account. But I guess that's probably helping you as well, because when you see people coming to you and they're like, yeah, I don't know this either, that's got to be quite nice for you to be like, oh, I am new to this.
Yeah.
And being new to this does mean I'm not entirely sure about everything.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I share on social media, of course, for people to find me and like to make it a safe space, like make, welcome beginners, etc. But yeah, it's also for my kind of peace of mind as well, that like, it is completely normal to be a beginner, and like at the end of the day we all start somewhere. And like even if you're just picking up running, or you're just picking up one sport, like you've got to start somewhere. So yeah, it does make me feel a little bit better when I'm sharing my experiences online and I'm getting those responses as well.
And it doesn't always go right, does it? One thing that you do really well, I remember seeing a reel of yours a few weeks ago. I think you'd been out on like a 15k tempo or threshold or something, and it had gone not perfectly, and you shared the fact that it hadn't gone perfectly. I think that message is so important, the fact that not every session is going to go well, particularly if you're doing like an Ironman block and you've got loads of sessions a week.
Yeah, very true. It like, so when you do fail a session, or you don't do as well as you expect it to be or anything like that, like, as you do feel bad. And then when I share that, and like again I get a few responses being like, thank you so much for sharing this, like it's so it's so normal to fail a session or not do as well as you thought. So yeah, no, I try and show the lows and the highs, because it is so easy to show the highs all the time, especially when you're training. Like, I'm training quite intensely, I'm training kind of all the time, and I am having really good sessions, and it's so easy to share those good sessions because I'm proud of myself, I want to show my achievements, etc. But it is so important to show those lower times as well. And I get, again, people will like reply to the those really good sessions being like, oh, I wish my splits were like that, or you're smashing it, but like it's probably the same morning when you woke up really early being like, oh, I'm so tired today, or your session before the run didn't go well. Like, say if I had a brick session, my bike didn't go to plan, and then I had a really good run, people will probably only take the highs from that session and would be like, you smashed that run. I'd be like, yeah, but I didn't feel too good at the start of the day. So it is so easy to show those highs, but I do like to show those lows, to show that it is completely normal to have those days and those sessions.
Comparatively, from when you like decided you wanted to go on this journey to being in this journey, did you think it was going to feel like it feels? Did you think it was going to feel different? What are the similarities? What are the differences of kind of what you thought this was going to be like when you started it?
Yeah, I suppose I had no idea of what I was getting myself into. I knew it was going to be intense. Like, I knew it was going to be hard work and it was going to be a lot of grafting. But yeah, I was expecting it to be hard. So I'm glad I put myself in that position to like, like what you're taking on before signing up for this, like, is going to be a lot of work. I probably should have done a little bit more research into like how many training hours you're actually going to be doing a week, etc. But yeah, I knew I'd set myself up for a challenge, and I knew it was going to be tough. I knew it was going to be hard. But yeah, I mean, nothing will compare. Like, you know, like, it is, you can think about how hard it's going to be, but until you're in that position and like training like 12 to 15 hours a week, that's when you're like, oh God, you know, like, this is tough.
Why did you decide to do it, Paige? Because it is a big jump. Like, to decide to go, I'm going to do this. What was the reason? I know that, you know, there's a challenge aspect there, but there's got to be something rooted that you know, you're obviously an incredibly competitive person that wants to challenge themselves. Is there a reason behind that?
Yeah, no, not really. Again, it is just, I'm just a very competitive person. And I suppose I'm kind of like an all-in person. Like, I'm ready for the challenge. I want to take it on. And it also, I thought I wanted something that's going to scare me. Like, it kind of scares me. And that's something I really wanted, because I'd done like a few marathons last year, and like, I knew I would be able to get faster if I continued doing these, but like, they didn't scare me anymore. Like, it wasn't a challenge as such. I mean, running a marathon is insane, and it is such a big achievement. But like, my life is now a fitness coach and being, I suppose, an athlete on, you know, social media and things, that like the challenge didn't scare me, and I wanted something that is really going to push me out of my comfort zone. It's really going to push me. And of course I thought about like half Ironmans, but I thought, if I sign up for the full Ironman, doing a half Ironman's not going to scare me either, because I know I've got this bigger challenge at the end of the year, or I suppose, well, at the end of this year anyway. So yeah, I just wanted something that's really actually going to scare me. And I thought it was time to push myself out of the comfort zone. And also, with the presence on social media, I do want to show that we can do, I know it is a really hard thing, but we can do hard things. It is that competitive side of me, I think.
It is, yeah, like you say, it is a very hard thing, but I think sometimes using fear as motivation can be a good thing, because it does get you out of bed in the morning. You've already mentioned those mornings where you're like, you know, I get up and I feel rubbish and I might not want to do it. And I think the fact that you've got 2.4 miles, 112 miles marathon hanging over, you're like, I have to work hard here. I can't cheat this.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna be in the ocean, like not on my own, but like with no support, no side to grab in the pool. Like, I need to train for it. And that's all I think of when I'm like, because I do probably the sessions I dread the most are probably my swimming sessions. And like, before going for those sessions, I've got to hype myself up. I've got to be like, Paige, you've got to be ready to swim 4 kilometers in that ocean by September. So get yourself there and you'll feel so much better for it. And when you start to see the progression, that's when it starts to feel better and feel easier, and it starts to pay off, I suppose. So yeah, you've got to just think about what's there to get you through those sessions and what you've got to be doing.
How are you feeling for September? Like, because it's this date that's going to be looming over you, right? It's this date that you're going to be thinking about everything towards, and then suddenly it's going to be here, and it'll be here pretty fast. Like, how are you feeling? We're chatting on the 5th of June, so you got a couple of months, but it'll go quickly.
Yeah, it's going to fly by. I can't believe how fast the first half of this year has been. Like, I remember actually just signing up for the Ironman. I think it was maybe back in start of December, end of November. And like, September felt ages away. It was like, that is so long away. You've got so long to train for it. And we're in June already. And I'm like, there's kind of when a panic kind of kicks in, you're like halfway through the year. But yeah, no, the 21st of September is just running through my head all the time. It's just that date is definitely looming over me. And I'm kind of not forgetting about everything before then, but it's literally like tunnel vision. That's all I can see is that day. So yeah, it's still scaring me. Even though training sessions are getting easier, and you know, I think I am, you know, kind of smashing the training and doing quite well to say I am a beginner. But yeah, it still scares me, and it's kind of just tunnel vision now to the 21st.
Remind me of where you're racing again.
It's in Italy.
In Italy. What was the decision to go abroad for the first one? Was there like, I just want to race in an amazing place that I've never been before, or was there a particular connection to the race, or was it kind of like that one kind of lines up with the time that I want to do it, so let's do that one?
Not gonna lie, it was like the elevation.
Okay, flat.
Yeah. I was like, what's the flattest Ironman I can do?
I love that.
And then it said like it was like swim, like still ocean, bike, flat. I think it's so. Of course, your bike is 180 kilometers, and there's 200 meters of elevation over those 180k, which is insane. Because when I'm doing laps of Richmond Park for like maybe 50k, that elevation is more than 200, and I'm like, that'll be a bit of a dabble doing the elevation on that. I mean, the bike ride's not going to be a dabble because it's 180k, but the elevation wise is so nice for that distance. And then your run in the Italy Ironman is actually just 4 loops of 10k, and I was like, that's actually really nice, and you can mentally get through that a little bit easier than a full marathon. Like when you break it down like that, because we all break marathons down in our head, we're like, oh, 2-part runs left, or like 2 10ks. So doing those 4 10ks as well makes it in my head mentally a little bit easier.
I did Copenhagen Ironman a few years ago, and it was the same thing, 4 10k loops. And what they were giving you to kind of distinguish where people have gone, like how many loops people have done, was like a little sort of like, almost like a scrunchie, like a hair scrunchie. And they were putting it on your arm after each lap.
No way.
And I remember seeing the people that were on, say I was on my 3rd lap, I remember seeing people on their 4th lap and looking at that red scrunchie that they had. And I was thinking, I've never wanted something so bad in my life.
Yeah, I've never run so fast.
I want that so badly. And then when one of the volunteers then put it on my arm, I was like, I love this. This is incredible.
Yeah, this is
like,
great.
It must be exciting that you're going to have like all of these moments on race day that are literally going to be there now for the rest of your life, because an Ironman is that sort of thing that you work so hard towards, but it's one day that you then have forever, which I think is so special.
Yeah, exactly. And like, well, once you're an Ironman, aren't you? So like, it's definitely gonna stay with me forever when I get that tattoo somewhere.
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you picked out the tattoo and where it's gonna go? Yeah.
My Ironman's on the 21st, tattoo's on the 22nd.
That's fantastic.
I don't know whether to go with it yet, or just quite discreet somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I remember leaving it a couple of months just because I think if I had done it the week after my first one, I think I'd wanted it on my forehead just so I could be like, here it is, everybody.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe I need to let it sink a little bit and just, chill out.
Have you thought about, and I know, look, we're still far away from that point, but have you thought about how you're going to feel after it? Because it's such a long goal and such a long training block to put in to a specific day. It's going to be a big change lifestyle wise once it's done. Yeah,
100%. It is going to be insane because like no one trains 15 hours a week for just fitness unless you're a full-time athlete or anything, or competitively training in Ironmans and things. So yeah, it is going to be a massive train. I think I will actually probably get like Ironman blues. Like it's definitely going to kick in afterwards. I'm probably going to be waking up at like my 5 a.m. for no reason. I'm going to be like,
go for a swim.
Yeah. Shall I book it at the pool or something? Like I'm probably going to be itching actually, because it has become my lifestyle. Like training 2 times a day, like 3 times a week is probably starting to feel normal. Whereas that's absolutely not normal. So yeah, no, I am definitely going to get the Ironman blues afterwards, and it's going to be hard. However, I have actually got the Chicago Marathon 3 weeks after. So I'm going to be lying horizontal for 3 weeks after the Ironman, which is going to be the hardest thing because my coach says we cannot do anything in those, until at least the week before Chicago Marathon. We don't want to be pushing the body too hard because, of course, my central nervous system is going to be on overload. So yeah, I'm gonna have to lie horizontal till the Chicago Marathon 3 weeks after.
the most strenuous thing that you're going to be doing is deciding what you need to order on Deliveroo. I think at that
Yeah,
point, that's probably
exactly.
like
I know.
literally it.
Yeah, my boyfriend was like, when do we get back from Italy? I was like, I'm going to give myself at least another 2 days to just sit in the sun and just
Yeah,
chill out and just reset.
yeah, you're definitely going to deserve it by that point for sure.
I know.
And you know, I know I mentioned like post race, but obviously there's nothing to stop you from going to do more, which I'm sure you're going to do in the future. And it's very inspiring to see somebody that's so passionate and that is dedicating such a proportion of their life to something that ultimately I'm sure you're going to complete, but you don't know what it's going to feel like to complete it. Have you thought about that finish line?
I have. I'm someone I've been watching like as many YouTube vlogs of people finishing Ironmans, and I cry every time. I'm crying every time. As soon as I hear that you are an Ironman, I'm sobbing for them. Yeah, I don't know whether you know Nutty Foodie Fitness. No,
Yeah,
Stephanie, Joshi. So she did her Ironman last year. And I suppose that's when I kind of started to learn a little bit more about what an Ironman is. Because I knew what triathlon was and I knew what, these triathlon races are, but I didn't know the Ironman was probably, the most extreme, etc. So yeah, she has a really good vlog and I think I've watched it when I'm really struggling on the bike or in a long session. I just put that vlog on and I watch it and I just start crying and all of a sudden my watts are going up and I'm pushing harder. But yeah, I am someone that's been watching those finish lines. So if I'm crying for someone else on a vlog, I think I will be absolutely sobbing. But I just want to make sure I take it all in. And that's something I didn't do in my first marathon because I put so much pressure on myself to get through the marathon, try to push for a time for my first time. I just didn't enjoy the race. And because this is such a big event and this is such a big thing for me, I really want to make sure I enjoy the race. So I'm not putting too much pressure on myself to, to like hit times or anything. I just want to make sure that I enjoy the race and just soak in that red carpet at the end. If I want to drop the splits and start running slower just to take it in a little bit more, then I'll make sure I do that and just take it in. But I can imagine by the end of it, I'm going to be a bit delulu and I'm just going to be sobbing anyway.
I think as well, it's weird, isn't it? Sometimes when you enjoy something, for some strange reason, it tends to go easier. Like I bet you found that in training. Like when you enjoy a session, that session doesn't feel maybe as brutal as if you're being dead hard on yourself.
Yeah, no, definitely. It really shows on the bike actually when like you've got maybe like a brick session at home and you're on the turbo trainer for like 3 hours. But I will happily go for a cycle with my friends for 6 hours, maybe even going faster or bigger elevation. And I will be enjoying that and I will be loving that. So it is really weird how, yeah, in a race setting or in that kind of setting, because you enjoy the sport so much and because you enjoy what you're doing and the challenge, you actually do push yourself a little bit harder and you do just enjoy it. So yeah, hopefully in the race I will be feeling that way too. And I mean, again, another reason probably why I chose Italy was because, the weather, the views. Yeah. So hopefully that does also make me enjoy it even more and push myself during the race.
How has the rest of it been? Because yes, you're doing 15 hours a week training, but that's not the only time you're thinking about the Ironman. That's not the only time you're thinking about training, because there are so many other elements that go into a training block like this in terms of dropping down the amount of time you're spending maybe at social occasions, the amount of food that you're having to consume, like all of these other things that add up to making that day in September special. What have they been like?
Yeah, it has been a big adjustment. I think like if you think about maybe like the average person working a normal week and with their things that they've got to do outside of work, like no one's got a spare 15 hours. Like no one has a spare 15 hours to do anything in the week. So when you think of it like that, like it is massive and it is a massive amount of time during a week. I am very lucky to be doing it with being self-employed and having a job where I'm from home or I can be from anywhere, I can work from anywhere. So I'm very lucky in that aspect. My housemate's actually doing the Ironman with me. And she works a 9-to-5 office job, and like seeing how hard it is to fit that training in around that lifestyle is an even bigger challenge that like I'm so grateful that I don't have to face, and I can plan my sessions in when I'm kind of free or when I can kind of move things around a little bit easier. But yeah, no, it has meant, not so much. I'm trying not to say no to social occasions as much so that it doesn't take over my life, but maybe leaving social occasions a little bit earlier, say on like a Friday evening when I've got a big brick session Saturday morning. And yeah, it's just making those adjustments that I know is only short term as well. So like, yeah, I know by the September, I'll be able to enjoy myself a little bit more. And also surrounding myself with people that support me and support the goal, and are also maybe in the industry and things like that, also makes a massive difference as well, because they completely understand when you're in your racing season, and when you've got a big A race coming up, that you do need to make those sacrifices, and and whilst you're working towards those goals.
What do you hope, let's say 5 years down the line, to look back at this period of your life and think?
Ooh, probably how crazy I was. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look back and be like, oh my goodness, because right now, not finding it easy at all. It is definitely very challenging, but like I'm kind of enjoying it, and like I know when I look back, I'm gonna be like, that was not normal. Like that is not normal. When I go back to having 2-3 rest days a week, and when I'm actually just training once a day and just kind of training for fun and having, with friends, etc. I'm going to look back and we'll be like, oh my goodness, remember when you were training like ridiculously hours a week and getting up so early to go on, 20k runs and 3-hour bike rides, etc. So yeah, it's going to be really strange looking back, but also I'm probably just going to be really proud of myself that I managed to do it. I don't know what like the average age is, especially for a female to do an Ironman as well, but I can imagine like my age group, there's not a lot of us in my age group, so like looking back of how young I was at the time and how I managed to balance a social life of a 24-year-old and training for an Ironman, I'm going to be definitely proud of myself.
It's cool to hear you speak about that as well, kind of like you feel like it's not easy, it's very challenging, but kind of being in it, it's amazing how your body adapts, isn't it? Like you're now training like, an Ironman athlete in essence, and your body is adapted to that training load. And it kind of feels like, right, this is what I do now. This is what my body does.
Yeah.
We've gone forward 5 years, going back 5 years, let's say. Could you ever see yourself being at this point where you're like, my body can handle that amount of training on a week-by-week basis?
Absolutely not. No, no. And to be honest, like 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't even imagine like running marathons or anything like that. 5 years ago, I was at dance college, so I trained at dance college for 4 years in professional musical theatre. So I thought I would be a dancer in musicals and being in shows, etc. So yeah, looking forward 5 years, doing an Ironman, that's probably my ballet teacher's worst nightmare, is me doing an Ironman. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what do you mean you've got to eat all that food and do all that, all those strength training sessions and bike sessions? Like, it wouldn't even cross my mind where I am today.
Do you feel like a different person to that person?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
What's changed, do you think?
I feel more like a bit more of a machine now. I was at dance college, you're very like dainty, you're very elegant, I suppose, and like, whereas now I feel like I'm very like rough and ready to throw myself into anything. I feel very strong, like ready to take on any challenge, do an Ironman. So yeah, I definitely feel very different, and I think being more present on social media has definitely changed that for me, because you start to see like all these athletes and all these people like pushing themselves, fueling themselves and things like that, whereas like back at dance college, like that was never a thing. Like dance college and training for Ironmans are so different, like the amount of food that you're eating. It was, could not imagine being the dancer that I was now.
Was that an initial adjustment to start with? Because, you know, fueling is so important, and when you come into doing this amount of work, how did you kind of teach yourself, right, this is actually, like, you do need to fuel yourself really, really well here, because this is incredibly important?
Yeah. I mean, in dance college, I suffered with quite bad disordered eating in dance college, which is sadly so common in the industry, so common. So yeah, I was kind of suffering through dance college, and that when I started to get into strength training, and when I actually then did like my PT qualification, started working in a gym, I then learned more about how food is fuel, and like it was never something that we were taught at dance college. So learning that and realizing how much food like we need to actually eat, not even when you're training for an Ironman, but just in general, even if you're just training like 5 days a week, you need good fuel. And like, it was just never something that we learned. So making that adjustment out of dance college, it was hard at first, but again, I was like started to become a bit more present on social media, and that I was getting into the industry, and it was such a normal thing that like luckily I like the adjustment was quite easy. But then obviously training for an Ironman, like it's on the next level with food. It's on the next level, but also because I am in a great relationship with food, like I just knew I needed it because my body was hungry all the time. And I remember like swimming when I was younger, like just going to like swimming sessions with my friends and things like that, how hungry I was after like 45 minutes of messing around in a pool with my friends and having fun on like the slides and things. I was so hungry after swimming. Whereas now I'm swimming 3-4 times a week and I'm ravenous.
This community that is on social media, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, and if you don't follow Paige, by the way, you should definitely go and do that, because there are so many amazing bits of training footage and what I eat in a days and advice and stuff that's going to be inspiring so many people. When you started to build this community and you've kind of got all these people there with you now, we've briefly mentioned it, does that feel kind of weird? And this is something I've asked a lot of people that have been on the podcast that have got followings. Is it weird that these people are kind of inspired by what you're doing? Is that a strange feeling?
Yeah, it is, because like you feel like a normal person, you know, like you're just you doing your thing, but like just sharing it to thousands of people. So yeah, no, it definitely does feel, it doesn't feel real when you're posting it, like when you're putting up reels and posts and things, you completely forget that, you know, like 60,000 people are actually who are following you, like are gonna see that. So yeah, it doesn't actually feel real when you're posting the content. The only time it starts to sink in is like the other day I was having a really bad brick session in the gym and I just didn't want to be there, and I had 2.5 hours on the bike, and then I had a 6K run, and I was an hour into this bike, and I was like, oh, do I have time on Sunday to do it? Like, could I tap out now and just get it done at the end of the week? And now there were so many thoughts going through my head, and I get this tap on my shoulder, and it's this lady, and she's like, I just follow you on like social media, I just want to say you're smashing it. And I was like, oh, and that like it literally made my heart melt, and like I just continue with the session, and I was like, I forget that so many people like can see this, and I was like, gonna do it for them, and I pushed through and I got the session done. So it is so rewarding when you get those moments when people do notice you and people see you in real life, and like they say, like, you know, oh, you're smashing this training, or you're gonna smash this Ironman. That's when it actually starts to sink in.
You need to get her employed for September to just drive behind you on the bike, tap you on the shoulder. Go on, Paige. You're doing an amazing job.
Yeah, I just need a stranger that I don't know personally to like just tell me I'm doing really well, that's probably been following me or seeing my stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm doing it for them.
I do agree.
Yeah, and to be fair, it is a bit of friendly pressure, I suppose, because like when you do races and when you do these marathons, like I feel like a lot of your audience are waiting for your results and waiting to see how you do, which is definitely for the Ironman. Like I've built up such a massive thing about it. Like I know I'm gonna have to do it now, and I'm gonna have to. I mean, I'm not going to let anyone down if, you know, I didn't hit a time or anything like that, but it does put a bit of pressure on you to do well in those races. Because I'm so competitive, I like that pressure. I'm all here for it.
you're going to absolutely smash it. For somebody that's watching this and thinking about kind of making that step, taking that kind of action, and we'll finish with this, because I think what you've done is you've taken a big step a year ago pretty much and said, in a year's time I'm going to be here. For somebody that is thinking about doing that, what would be your main bit of advice to them?
Just to remember that everyone is a beginner and everyone starts somewhere. So yeah, just start now and ask all the silly questions. Ask them, because everyone will have asked them before. And yeah, just, it's okay to be a beginner.